Een aantal vragen. We starten met het...
Like expected, I think. Eventful game with many goals. I think everybody expected that before the game. For two reasons, maybe. One of the reasons, I think two managers always want to press high, want to bring the ball out from the back. So sometimes you see then certain mistakes, but it's always eventful. And for the other reason, because both teams, maybe mainly ours, was not playing in the setup that we usually do. So then you see in some moments that we defend in a way what probably is not expected if we play with all of our starters. But still, in the end, we were able to definitely make a game out of it. With all, especially in the end, with all these youngsters on the pitch. So eventful would be my word to use.
It's the first time that Federico Chiesa's played in 90 minutes. Did that feel like a big step forward for him tonight? And seems to be getting a lot sharper.
Yeah, and he got a knock with the penalty, so that took him a few minutes before he kept going again. But I think it's been 7, 8 or 9 months ago, maybe even longer. I don't know exactly. He played 90. It's the same for Jayden Dance. It was the same for James McConnell. So we had quite a lot of players that were not used to playing so many minutes in the last 6 or 7 months. So it's especially for them also important that they make these 90 minutes. And were able to keep competing during 90 minutes. Okay, Jayden couldn't manage to play the whole game, but Federico in the end was still sprinting, trying to do his work. So positive, yeah.
What could you say to him to lift the spirits? Because so cruel, and what happens to him?
No.
Yeah, it's cruel, but he's never played first team football yet, and then to make your debut at the Champions League level is probably the hardest way of making a debut. And yeah, I think he misinterpreted the situation. Yeah, that is immediately a problem at this level or a Premier League level. So it's a big moment for him to learn from, and it is cruel indeed. You think in a moment like this, 10 minutes before the end, I'm gonna make my debut not in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and a few minutes later you go off with a red card. That is always difficult. But yeah, a career mainly is not always positive. There are also negatives, and he has to fight very hard to make sure he will ever play a second Champions League game again, which is not going to be easy, but hopefully he will.
Hi, Arne. Do you think there's a chance that any of the young players that played tonight might be allowed to go out on loan before the transfer deadline?
There's always a chance in life. And at the moment we have most of our players fit, so we will have this discussion tomorrow, I think, me and Richard, about these players, but there's definitely one of them that will not go on loan, and I think you know which one I mean. James McConnell. I wouldn't say definitely, but I liked him a lot today, so maybe now the end result of today is would be good for him to go somewhere and play. But he is also a player that hasn't played in the last 6 or 7 months 90 minutes because he was injured for a while, and he impressed me a lot today.
Arne, wat voor smaak hou je aan deze wedstrijd over?
Arne, what taste does this result leave in your mouth? Well, in the beginning we lost. This is not the reason why we came here for, so it's a deception. It's all about winning or losing. Well, at the end it didn't have any effects on the table or the competition, or what it meant for the next draw. So yes, of course, it was a deception. I saw some good things. I also saw some goals conceded that I would like to see better. But I'm sure that it's the other way around too. That when PSV gave away that goal, I'm sure that they weren't happy about it. But this is football. This is normal. It's good to see that some guys who didn't make 90 minutes in a long time were back today, and they left a great impression. Some of the guys who make some minutes in the season also left a great impression. So yeah, well, okay, let's say only that. Okay. Did you calculate or did you think about this, that you would expected this? No, I'm not going away with a bad feeling, but I do think it's a shame that we lost. I saw some positive things when the game is finished. I always say that we are looking into the next game. I've done this all my career as a head coach. Maybe this was the first and maybe the only exception in my career that I was looking a bit more towards the next game, like Bournemouth is coming up, and there's all the focus on from now on. What have you been talking about with Peter Bos? Because you both caused a lot of a spectacle and a great game. Now we just spoke about the draw that they could face or not get. As I understood well, and if he was right, then they might get Feyenoord, right? Or Juve, am I right? Well, how is this possible? It might be Juventus, who knows? Feyenoord lost 6-1, is that true? 2 injuries? Justin and Santi, oh. Je bent eerst in de groep geworden, dus je bent blij dat je...
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know if it's a big achievement, but it's a good achievement to end up top of this league. But I said many times, it's so hard to judge a league table after 8 games, let alone if all the teams play different opponents. So it doesn't tell me much, to be honest, because some teams have faced easier opponents than others. So. But it's always nice if there's a new format that you end up number 1, but it doesn't give us any assurances for the next round, because if I then now check the league table and I see the 4 teams, if I'm correct, we can face 4, can't we? That's the difference between PSV, which I don't completely understand. But we can face those 4, and those 4 are especially. One of them is definitely one you're hoping not to face if you end up first in a group like this.
Ja, Arne, het is een beetje een gek format inderdaad. Het komt door die tussenronde omdat je dan 15, 16, 17, 18 hebt. Een van die tegenstanders waar je doet, Paris, als je naar hun loting kijkt, krankzinnig. Alleen maar...
If you look at the goals conceded and goals won in front, so let's say, are you a fan of this new Champions League format, or what can you tell me now? It depends on what club you work. As on this logo in front of me, you would have said Feyenoord. As if I were the trainer of Feyenoord. I think they ended up 19. Well, normally you would play in Europa League because the first 16 will continue in the tournament. Now you continue in Champions League. For many clubs, this is really great. For us, it means 2 more games, and I mean Liverpool now. So normally you would end up in the first 2 ranking. So it depends on who you are asking. I don't think it's extremely fun, but we'll see at the end of the tournament if we have won it. Maybe I talk about the tournament in a different way then, but we have to wait for it. Will this be a night that you don't remember for that long? I don't guess. No, there have been matches against PSV that I will recall for a longer time than this one. Eventjes over James McConnell. Je hebt gezegd dat hij...
We have that we're not even here, but he's always a very competitive player. So I'm not surprised, but you always wonder how you're going to react on this stage at this level. We saw the same with Amara Nialo, which is not a player that has the same impact in training sessions yet as James McConnell. But that James just plays and is competitive is not a surprise, but he definitely deserves credits for his performance today.
Last one here at the front.
No, the last one is always for Valentijn. Eh?
Okay.
Yeah, Valentijn is always the last one. I've missed him a bit, so...
Dat ging net al even over 50%.
Arne, 50% chances of PSV playing Feyenoord. You can always explain really well. Why? Should we be proud on Dutch football that this is going to happen, or what's your opinion? Sorry? Other games will be PSV playing Juventus, or the other facing AC Milan? Well... PSV already played Juve, right? Is that? Yes, I know. Well, what do we hope for as a Dutch football? Well, by saying nothing that you know my answer. Or maybe not. Maybe one team in the 8. As a Dutch team, you don't want to compete with
Kan al
each other.
switchen. Kan al switchen.
For playing for the Dutch team, I think it's a cheap way to score. But when I was playing in UEFA Cup, I visited these games. Feyenoord playing PSV, it was big games and spectacular results. I think it was 3-2. Also ended up in penalties. So do you still recall the penalties of Van Hooijdonk? But in general, you always prefer to play Juve or Milan. So let's say that we are hoping for that. This is a Telegraph, Dutch Telegraph. This is. Do you accept this? You're not getting the last question. Saibaru, by they talking about making a transfer to Premier League. How do you see their potential and their possibilities to end up in playing in Premier League? I don't know if it's too nice to talk about two specific players, but what you can say is that the Dutch competition has shown that players can be successful in Premier League too. The biggest example is Cody Gakpo playing today for us. And I think that the first goal that Bakayoko scored, it was a great goal. And I can imagine that PSV as a team, there have some players that are in the aim of other bigger teams. So I think they even reached the last 16, last tournament. Who did they beat? I don't remember. Now, one phase earlier, they continued in the tournament though, but that's a beautiful team to play for. So they decide when they are ready to make this step, and we cannot say that some players are not going to play in a higher level, because I am sure that they will.